everybody, I'm Sarah and I'm a recorder player. First of all, thank you to all the people who have subscribed to my channel over the past week. If you're not subscribed already, just click on the button below and don't forget to click on the bell icon because then you get a notification whenever I do anything, and that is just more fun. This week's video is my top 10 recorder hacks. Hacks, for those of you who don't know, are tips and tricks that make your life better and easier. Some of you may have seen some of these in other videos, but I thought it's really useful just to round them all up, put them all together. Number one, my absolute favourite is the cleaning sock. A lot of recorders come with these kind of fluffy recorder cleaning things. However, I find that these sometimes leave fluff in the inside of your instrument, and the main thing is that they get really gross after a while. After playing, I much prefer to clean my recorders out with a humble sock. I find that these absorb way more moisture and they're super easy to clean, and who doesn't have like 1,000 socks hanging around the house? So you either get your recorder cleaning stick, and if you don't have one of these, you can even use a pen or a pencil. Just put your pen into the sock, make sure the ink side is facing away from the end that you're going to poke into your recorder, but then you can dry out your instrument after playing. Are your neighbours getting annoyed with you playing, or do you just want to practice quietly? Take a small piece of paper, like that one that I'm showing you now, and fold it up and put it very carefully into the labium of your recorder, and by putting this paper into the labium of the recorder, it stops any sound coming out, but you can still blow and you can still feel as if you're playing. You probably won't want to practice like this all the time, but sometimes when you're working on your muscle memory, on your articulation, following those scale patterns for your fingers, something like this can really save your life and your neighbours. Another cool thing this paper can do, you put a small piece of paper carefully into the mouthpiece, and then it makes a beautiful kind of breathy tone. You might want to experiment a little to find out the exact amount of paper you need to get the sound you want, but it could be a really cool effect. Just be careful not to get that paper lost in there. Sometimes with an instrument you feel like you want a little bit more support for your hands. I like to make a thumb rest out of trusty hairbands. I usually use 3, but again you can experiment with the amount. Just take 2 elastics, put one through the other, and then loop it through itself. I loop this around the foot joint of the recorder, put my thumb through the other end, and that gives me some handy support. You can invent any kind of construction you want. There we go, now I have a third one looped very tightly around the recorder, attached to my thumb rest. I don't actually do this with my Alto, but I do use it with the Renaissance basset recorder that my trio uses. It's blue. I should probably replace this bright blue one. So we have 3 hairbands attached to one another, and this is enough for me to perform with. Sometimes I have this weird thing where it feels like the recorder is falling out of my hands when I play. What I do, it's a little bit gross, but I lick each of my fingers, rub them together a bit so that they're just damp, and then my fingers stick to the recorder much better. Some of my instruments are one piece. This makes them difficult to tune because there are no parts you can pull out. If the instrument is too sharp, you can solve this with some card. Cut a small strip, roll it into a circle, and insert into the end of your instrument. This makes your instrument a very tiny bit longer and therefore a very tiny bit lower. The difference is minimal, but it might be just enough when you're tuning with other people. If you or your students are struggling to remember where to put your thumb, sometimes the thumb goes up too high, sometimes it's down too low, I simply put a little sticker on the back where your thumb should be. Ideally, it should be exactly in between the first and the middle fingers of your right hand. Then you or your student can always feel for the sticker and know that you have a good thumb position. This next tip is quite a nerdy one for players who are quite advanced. If you want to go and play the Voiceflute, which is a recorder in D, how do you read music for recorders in D? For example, on the alto, the D fingering would be thumb 1, 2. But on the Voiceflute, the D fingering is this one. There is a hack for this. When playing the Voiceflute, simply imagine you're playing bass clef and add 3 flats. It sounds like, but if you can read bass clef already, then you can read Voiceflute fingering. And this is great because it opens up all of the Baroque flute repertoire, which goes down to the low D, which here you play with all holes covered. Sometimes on a large instrument it can be difficult to cover some of the holes. If one of your fingers is being problematic and isn't covering the hole properly, don't be shy about helping yourself out with a little bit of tape. Take a very little bit of tape and cover the hole just at the edge. Even this tiny amount can be the difference for having a nice clear sound. This can also really help to fix tuning issues. If one of the intervals is too wide, you can experiment with adding a tiny bit of tape so that it sounds in tune. For those of you worried if putting tape on your recorder is going to damage it, to be honest, I don't think so. You can invest in good quality tape that's easy to peel off. And I think if it's the difference between having a little bit of tape on your recorder and a good sound, or having no tape on your recorder but then a crappy sound, I know which one I would pick. If you are finding one of the joints of your recorder is too loose, in an emergency situation you can solve this again with a tiny piece of paper. Just add a little bit of paper to the joint, push it on, and it will hold it in place for the duration of your rehearsal or your concert. For a more permanent solution, you might want to re-thread your recorder. So here is the thread hack. If you just wrap it around your recorder in one straight line like this, it's going to take an entire spool of thread to get the coverage you need. You're going to be doing this for hours. If you build it up in a crisscrossing motion in opposite diagonal lines, bit trickier, but you are going to need way less thread. Whoa, this already feels thick enough. You are going to need way less thread than if you just do it in a straight line. Well, that was 10 hacks. Was that 10? Please share your hacks with me because I love to find ways to make my recorder playing easier and better so I can play for longer and more often. I don't say this very often on my YouTube videos, but please follow me on my other social media channels. I am on Twitter and Instagram with @sockmyshoe, and there I share much more of what I'm doing outside of YouTube, and I give a lot more updates for cool things that are coming along. So it would be really cool to see you on those platforms as well. Here's my face. Click on it to subscribe, and a lot of you seem to be enjoying my video from last week, which is which recorder should I buy, and that's linked up here. Thank you all so much for watching Team Recorder. Have a great day. Bye!